What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Building Code. I am one of your co-hosts, Charley Burtwhistle. My other co-host, Zach Witovich, is not here today. So what did we do? We went and got the most important, famous, smart person that we could find to fill into him. We're kind of doing like an opposites thing of what Zach is. We try to find the opposite of him, which is Courtney Mattern. Welcome to The Building Code.
Thanks for having me. I want to know now, like, what are the opposites? Is it like?
Well, I said smart, driven, funny for you. So whatever the opposites of those are would be.
You're really going to hear it from Zach when he comes back.
Yeah, no, just kidding. Obviously, I miss my BT bestie a ton. But for those of you who don't know, Courtney is who originally recruited Zach and I to be on The Building Code.
That's true.
So this has kind of come full circle having you co-host with me. Very cool experience for me.
Yeah, it's really weird to be on this side of the podcast. My team is the one responsible for, booking the guests, writing the questions, editing it. We got John back there, I think has been on the podcast a couple of times.
Yeah.
Edits the podcast, does the videos. Got a shout out to Chelsea, writes the questions. Nicole, who we hear from, who makes sure everything goes smoothly. Who else should I shout out? Now that I got into this, I really can't miss anyone. Sean Robinson, our content manager, who comes up with topics. Who am I missing? Because I'm really going to hear it from them.
I don't know. I mean, we could just kind of like click through the list right here.
We're just going to, just spend time. But
we got Chelsea,
thank you.
Courtney, Danielle, Haley, John, Lizzie, Nicole, Sean, Zach.
Yeah,
that's everyone in the
those are all
chat.
the people who are responsible for bringing this podcast to you every week. And we're really excited that we're back to every week episodes too, so that we can bring our listeners, I think it's like 10,000 strong or more every month, really interesting topics about the construction industry, some inspiration, learning from other people's mistakes, things about the economy, what's going on with it, trends.
Yes, Courtney, snaps all around.
So we hope you're enjoying it, and I'm glad to be on this side. Although, props to you and Zach, because this isn't as easy as it looks.
Well, Courtney, you're kind of on a roll, so I'm going to let you keep going with this. Who do we have on the episode today?
Yeah, today we're joined by Tom Waller. He's owner of Tom Waller Signature Homes in Kentucky. I had the pleasure of meeting Tom. Nicole and I did at Buildertrend University. So he's been using Buildertrend for about 5 years. He's been in the industry about 20, and we just loved his energy at Buildertrend University. And for those of you who don't know, Buildertrend University is on-site training that we have here at the HQ. We have different classes you can take, everything from beginners to super users, financials, and just like almost every other month, our building is full of 70 customers from all over the country. It's the best part of our job to get to talk to them and meet them and hear their stories. And we thought Tom would have a lot to offer our listeners, so we invited him on the podcast.
Absolutely. For those of you listening, if you think that Courtney sounds like an absolute pro, it's because she is. Here's a little trade secret for you. This is actually her second episode that she's recorded.
It's true.
We recorded one right before this, but then we found out that it releases 4 weeks after this one. So if you like Courtney and want to hear her again, tune in 4 weeks from now for another episode. But enough about me, enough about Courtney. The man of the hour, Tom Waller. Let's go ahead and get him in here. Hey, Tom, welcome to The Building Code. First time on here. Very, very excited to talk to you. I've been hearing a lot about you from your recent experience at Buildertrend University. So excited to get the chance to meet you. But for people that have not met you, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, you all have already introduced myself. My name is Tom Waller. I'm actually a custom home builder here in Louisville, Kentucky. I've been in the business now for about 19, 20 years. Kind of interesting start. Actually, at the age of 19, I started working at Ford Motor Company. And then that lasted for about 2 years, and then I got laid off, and I started working for a framer. Loved framing the houses, did that with them for a couple of years, and Ford called me back. And then I knew I was going to be young when I retired, so that's how this company all got started.
Wow. Okay. And a very interesting start. So tell us a little bit more about Tom Waller Signature Homes then.
Well, Tom Waller Signature Homes really started basically when I built my own personal house. I built my own personal house back in 1998. So me and two other guys, we framed up a 6,000 square foot ranch walkout.
Wow.
So when I did it, it was a learning process with me. I already knew the framing part of it, but I did not know all the other aspects of it as we moved forward in the process. So really interesting. So throughout that whole phase, it probably took me about 9-10 months to build my home. And then the more I did it, the more I loved it. And so that's kind of how this company actually started, by the roots, and started building up. And then what ended up happening, like most people do, I actually started a spec house, sold that, and it just kept on multiplying like that. So kind of exciting how it all started, because realistically, at the very first, it all started when I was, 21, 22 years old, slinging a hammer, to now been in the business for almost 20 years. So that's kind of how it all started.
I love it. Is there, I'm curious, building your own home, especially the first home that you built, was it, the only reason I'm bringing this up is when I was in high school, I painted my own room. I thought that was
Okay.
cool. And then every time when I laid down in bed, I looked up in the very top corner where I'd not got the second coat over a spot. And that's all I could fixate on in my room, was the mistakes I made. Was that similar? When you lived in your own house, you're like, oh, I wish I would have done this different, or I wish I would have done that. Or were you nailed it first try?
Most definitely. The funny thing is, when I built my house, everything, we were on a budget. And so the first institution I went to financial wise, since at the time I was not what they call a registered builder here in the Louisville area, they were not going to give me the construction loan. And so I went to our local bank here in Oakland County, walked in with a set of plans. A piece of property was already paid for. And within 3 or 4 hours, they said, hey, you got the construction loan. Good luck. And so that was kind of one of the biggest hurdles I faced when I got into the industry, to be honest with you. It was all getting the financial part in place. But then, when I built my house on the kitchen area, if you can imagine back then, we did mica tops in the kitchen. We didn't do certain things that I do now in a custom home. So believe it or not, 3 to 4 years ago, I shouldn't say my lovely wife, Terry, encouraged me to gut the whole kitchen. And we gutted the whole kitchen and redid the whole thing with quartz tops and, just the updated version of what I do now. So, the funny thing is, when you build your own house, you always have second guesses. But what I learned when I built my own house was, to make the building company even work, I had to get the core people, or what I do a team concept. So I had to get the core group of people in place. And once I did that, I knew that I had a big hurdle already done in regards to the financing. And then I just had to do the hurdle with the subcontractors and suppliers.
I met another builder recently who got their start with their company by building their own house. That's Megan Billings, who was just on the podcast. She got involved in building her house, and now she builds custom homes in Idaho. What was it that made this personal project spiral into a full-fledged business? What was it that made you come back?
Well, are you talking about why I built my personal house?
Well, just after that you're like, this was so fun, that even frustrated. What were the I guess the dopamine hits for you? What was it that you're like, I have to keep doing this for other people now? I did my own house and I loved this so much.
I think honestly it was the creativity part. I mean, I love to take a piece of raw ground and then create what was on the piece of paper, and then to take and finally see that come out of the ground, and then absolutely see the finished product. And to this day, I'm over 65 years old, so it's, people ask me all the time, do you ever get burnt out? And my question to them is, okay, if I get burnt out, then I'm not the right person for you, because you got to have the passion for this business. And you got to it's almost like an actor who performs in a movie or on the play. you still got to have when you go and see something, you got to be excited about it. And I think, the people that I have met throughout my career that's been really successful is those types of personalities, I feel.
Yeah, and I know one of the things that you had mentioned is that you really focus on kind of streamlining and taking the stress out of the home building experience. Can you kind of talk about how that process works and maybe some things that you focus on to ensure that, you can work as best as possible?
Well, and I'm not just saying this because I'm talking to you all right now, but this is how I feel about Buildertrend. You all, and I have told, last year I was actually the president of the Home Builders Association here in Louisville, and I've probably gotten about 5 or 6 of our local builders involved with you all now. But what makes it so good is in the streamlined process is the way the program, if you utilize the program to its full potential, then that's where you're going to get the most out of the program. And when I say that, it's just multiple facets. You got your scheduling, you got your change orders, which is huge. You got your contracts that you always have a backup, which we have to use our local contract here, but I do actually 2 contracts because you all have a very good one in your all system. So when it comes to any type of process that I use, you all are a very key part of that. And you all should be very proud of the program that your all's company has actually put together. It's I even tell people that, through the years that I've used Buildertrend, what really changed my focus on your all's company is when I actually went to the university.
Yeah. Tom, how long had you used Buildertrend before you came to BTU?
I would say, this is a rough guess, probably 5 years, maybe 6.
So what was it that made you think, like, now's the time for me to get to Omaha and learn more? I always think it's interesting when people have been using Buildertrend for a while and they get like a newfound interest in learning more.
Well, I felt I was starting to get stale with it. And I always felt that the program, I was still not, as well as I was trying to use it, I wasn't getting the full grasp of it. And that's why I really said, well, you know what? I'm going to spend the time up there, and I'm going to, see what I am missing in this whole big puzzle that you all have created. Because, and you probably have seen this multiple times through multiple podcasts, that it is a big puzzle, and you got to put the pieces together. Because, the program itself, you can utilize maybe 2 parts of it, but that's not really what the whole program's about, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think a common misconception is that Buildertrend is hard, but I think it's more so developing a process is really hard, and using a software like Buildertrend forces you to develop the process. So it's kind of like don't kill the messenger type thing, but it's like, hey, you have to, record, you have to document, you have to upload receipts, you have to, these are things that you should be doing as a business. They just so happen to be the things that you have to do to use Buildertrend as well too.
Very true. And one of the big hurdles I had with the program at the very beginning was getting all the cost codes in place, and I think that's probably one of the hurdles that you probably hear a lot of on the sales side also, that love the program, but man, getting all these cost codes in place, it sometimes can be, overwhelming. I will say that. But once you get it all in place, then the time you spent doing that, you're going to recoup that time, because the process is going to be so much easier on the next one and the next one and the next one. So, that's why I tell people who start using the program, you got to be patient with it.
Right.
And don't you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's kind of the biggest thing that we try to say, like on the customer success floor, who, those guys and girls work with literally thousands of clients. It's like, trust me, this will work. I have seen it. You just kind of got to stay the course.
It's like a gym membership. You can't just buy a gym membership and then you get fit.
Right.
Like, if that's how it worked. Like,
that's a great analogy.
you
Yeah.
know.
We need to start using that.
I mean, that's perfect, because that's what, that's kind of what, you can go to the gym, maybe once a week, but you're not going to get the, you got to keep working with it and working with it. So that was awesome.
One of our favorite questions that we always like to ask our guests that do use Buildertrend is what was kind of the initial pain point that you had that made you start looking for project management software, or what problem were you trying to solve when you originally purchased Buildertrend?
Well, I'm a very small builder in regards to some of the builders that might be using the program. But my main thing was, I'm a one-man show. And so I wanted to make sure that the program that I was going to implement to the company is going to satisfy my needs. And again, change orders, scheduling, communications between the client and me, selections, the whole program itself is almost like, I'd say, and I kind of tease sometimes with myself, Buildertrend is almost like my superintendent, and that's kind of how I look at it, because, it does things for me that sometimes, with me being a one-man operation, that it makes it so much easier for me to do the task at hand per day that I have to do.
Right.
Yeah. And 5 years later at BTU, what was the new aha moment?
Well, I've always said, and I've said this since I came back, because I still sit on the executive committee there at the BIA. It was all about the energy there. I mean, and I was actually teasing with Nicole and everybody and said, hey, if you're ever looking for an old man to come in and just, pour the beer for you all. But that wasn't the part that I'm just saying, though, I was so impressed with the energy. I mean, that to me, and I saw that, everybody that I came in contact with, they had a passion and the desire to work for Buildertrend, and to me, that's what makes a company great, is the core group of people that's actually in place that's going to, pitch the product. In regards to the classes, I've just picked up tidbits of it. Most of it, I didn't already know, but there were some items that I didn't know. Like, for example, like on a PO, if I start a job, I could actually create this saying, okay, this is lot 118, and that would be tied to everything that's into that plus into QuickBooks. Nice. And that was an aha moment for me. Most people would say that was very minute, but little tidbits like that is what I picked up.
Yeah, I will say, won't talk too much more about Buildertrend, but I will say the people that work here definitely believe in what we're doing. I think it's people that work here are people that want to be builders and tradesmen and construction workers that don't have the trade skills. Because that's like, you're literally building a roof over people's homes. Like, we talk about it all the time, is like, we kind of consider ourselves part of the construction community. We just can't swing hammers, right? So if I
could build my own house, man.
Oh yeah, I was thinking that when he was talking. I'm like, I wonder how much money do I have to blow to build a poorly built home?
Probably take me more than 10 months. I'll just tell you that.
It's again. I think it's just a passion. If any individual has for anything they do, you got to have that passion, and so that's kind of the gist of what I look at things.
When the days get tough in your business, is it that spark that that pushes you through to the end? Do you think the difference between throwing your hands up and deciding to do it again the next day?
Well, the funny thing is, in our industry is we have, and this is what I tell my team, and when I say team, I mean subcontractors and everybody. Most of everybody has to deal with one particular task. With us, we've got to deal with maybe 15, 16, and I probably said that way wrong, 15 to 16, meaning it's just overwhelming sometimes of how many times you're being pulled in different directions. And then you're also faced with, as being a builder or general contractor, that's what I kind of call myself now because I'm not actually doing, hammering the nails, but you're also faced with almost being a counselor, meaning that you got the person or persons that you're building the most expensive thing they'll ever purchase in their life.
Right.
And so you got a lot of raw emotions going into play. You got different personalities, and that is the part that I think too builders have to learn. That you got to learn. Everybody's got a different personality. Everybody's got a different thing that's going to key them to take them to a different level that they really don't need to be in. And that's kind of where we juggle everything. And then the funny thing is, I had a very good lady that I've known for years that actually worked for a lighting company, and she's actually been offered a job, and she took it to work with a custom builder. This female owns a company up in Lexington, and she's working for her now, and she actually called me. And she said, "Can we talk?" I said, "What's wrong?" And she goes, "Well, she's only been with him for the 2 weeks." And she goes, "I had no clue what you all go through." And I said, "Well, you got to give it time.
Right.
You can't. There's no way you're going to learn everything you need to learn in 2 weeks." And so I told her to call me every now and then so I could pull her off the ledge a little bit.
If it feels like stepping off a tilt-a-whirl, you're doing it right. That's the
Yeah.
like when you jump into something new and you feel like dizzy at the end of the day from all the new information you learn. Like you just got to keep doing that until things stop spinning.
Yeah. I mean, so and I'm up for any questions you all want to ask me. I know that we've been talking a lot about Buildertrend, but I know that probably people who are going to be listening to this probably want to,
Well, you have a long career.
Answers from me of what the real world is.
Yeah. Well, you've had a long career. Like the industry, the ups and downs it's been through in the last 20 years. Like, what do you think has been the biggest challenge? The one that you were like, I don't know if I'm going to come out on the other side. And now, where you're sitting now, you look back and you're like, oh yeah, that wasn't that bad.
Right.
I did it.
Well, and that's what I'm struggling with as we speak. I mean, right now, in the Louisville market and outside areas that, I build in, we are faced with so much uncertainty right now. I mean, with interest rates kind of rising just a little bit, you've got so many people that are so used to the interest rates being down in the 2s and 3s, that, they see these interest rates now. And the sad part of it is, it's kind of taken a big chunk of people out of certain market because before they were able to qualify for this certain type of house, and now they're not. So yes, I mean, right now for me as being a custom builder, and I've said this quite a bit, in our area alone, I can't speak outside of our area, but we are a dying breed. The production companies are, which there's a lot of good ones out there. There's a lot of good ones in this area, but I always tell them when I'm in meetings with them, I said, hey, you guys won't let us play on your all's ballpark anymore. I mean, we can't even get in, why don't you all just put a little section out for us?
Yeah.
Because the problem with custom builders is we rely on word of mouth. We rely on the capabilities to build spec houses on lots that are available to us to buy. And so when you start putting in all these factors into play, not only that we're facing those dilemmas, but we're also facing, again, the economy and everything else that's coming into play.
Well, when you were here in Omaha, you talked a little bit about how you've been pivoting your business, maybe trying out some different projects like remodels. Have you found a good solution, or like, are you looking at other ways to, make room for yourself in this new economic landscape?
Well, definitely remodeling is huge right now. I mean, it's taken on, and yes, I do some remodeling. Is it what I would call my niche? No, it's not my niche. I like to do it, but I think you've got different niches, and remodeling though is something though I feel like we need to do. We need to look at the process of saying, hey, things are changing in our environment all the time. So yeah, Courtney, I agree with you. I mean, we've done probably 4 or 5 big, remodel jobs. And I'm actually looking at doing one, creating a bourbon room, what they call a speakeasy room for somebody.
Yeah.
We're looking at redoing a kitchen area. So yeah, you're always kind of figure out what's going on, where people are wanting to take advantage of what we are faced with right now.
You have homeowners and folks with a lot of equity in their homes seem to be able to be the ones to take advantage of that and do some projects now, where some of those people who wanted to build a new home are having to put the brakes on those projects with the interest rates the way they are, it seems.
Right. The funny thing is, I've been hearing, and I've actually talked to another builder today, and I don't know if you're all hearing it throughout, but we're also seeing a lot of people that's coming to certain areas that the house has been existing for a long time, but they love the area. So they'll try to utilize the foundation, but they might tear the whole house down and start from scratch.
Yeah, I see that a lot in my area.
That also?
Yeah, I live in a more historic part of Omaha, and there have been quite a few, people are trying to get into the neighborhood, and if they can afford to move in. I've seen some houses just be completely razed and they start over from scratch.
Right.
Which I get the appeal. If it's all about location, but you still want to do a new build. I've seen that happen.
So how do you all, Courtney, how do you feel about that when somebody takes an existing house and then creates something maybe even modern in that particular area that it might not fit?
Oh gosh, that's like, because the one in our neighborhood that they put up, it's just like a big brown square box, like a super modern and like a more like 1920s, 1930s area with like Tudor homes and like white columns. And then my husband and I would drive by it all the time. We're like, ooh, what are they gonna do if they knock down, like, it was like a big maybe 60s ranch, so it was a little more modern, the house that was there than the other big brick houses. But we're like, really? It's just a big box? Like, we kept waiting for it to get more extravagant. But what's good for them, it's not always good for you, I guess.
But you know what though, that's the trend. I was actually fortunate enough to go to Cincinnati and judge their what they call tour of homes. Mm-hmm. And basically it was a development right on the river, and every one of those homes were basically 4 stories, garage at the bottom, maybe what they would call a bedroom, office. Every one of them had elevators in them. Because literally you went, and they were all nothing but a square box. Yeah. And I'm actually starting to see that trend a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was looking at your website before we hopped on here, and that's definitely not
your vibe.
Not your vibe. Mm-mm. The houses you have on here are incredible. I also love the names of them all. Are those? Do you name them? Yeah, I'm looking at your portfolio thing here. Yeah, these are sweet. The other thing that really stood out to me on your website was on your very front page or landing page, you have actual customer reviews, which I feel like is a little uncommon to put brave. Those out in front of everyone. Talk to me a little bit about kind of especially building custom homes, kind of the client relationship, and kind of the customer satisfaction that you seek that you strive for, and kind of how that back and forth goes?
Well, I actually, when I started my company, I always wanted to be, and I'll use the word concierge type builder, meaning that, the clientels that I deal with, which I typically will probably, at the most, will do 6 homes a year. Because with this service that I kind of implement with them is I try to return phone calls within a time frame, maybe 2 or 3 hours, maybe less if I'm not in a meeting. I will take certain phone calls, past business hours, to answer questions that they might have for me that literally can make them lose sleep over, or worry about.
Right.
I constantly try to keep track of their expenses and their budget. Budget's huge for me. But if you ask me the question, does everybody, on the budget wise, I have never had anybody stay in budget. I mean, that's just a fact. And I tell people,
Human nature.
I say, we'll do the best we can for you all, but you all are the ones basically controlling that.
Right.
With the system I have in place, the change order comes in, I put it into the system. They actually sign off on it. I sign off on it. And I tell them at the very beginning, I said, okay, you already know what your allowances are. This is what the product is. This is what you're over. I just want you to be aware of that.
Right.
And, I would say, 85% of the time they're good with it.
Sometimes it's just transparency and a clear expectation of what you're spending and what decisions you're making is what people need to feel good about that decision. It's when they get to the end and they're like, what? I had no idea. And Buildertrend kind of, when you have a system that automatically sends them their change order, they see it, they sign it, they acknowledge it. It takes away some of that awkwardness that builders sometimes have to have at the end of the process.
Yeah, which, the funny thing is, if you don't have a system like that in place, you'd be surprised of how many times that happens with other individuals that will literally say 5 or 6 days before closing will present to their clients, hey, here's $65,000 worth of change orders.
Or if they want to add a pickleball court at the last minute, if you had to put any pickleball courts in any homes, because we've been seeing that trend.
It's a process, and I'm not perfect at it. And I would say if anybody says they are, I don't know. I would have to see their system, but you're always going to have issues, especially when it comes to the financial part of the process. But I try my best to make sure everybody knows where we are at that time.
Right. And I the comment you made about, returning phone calls within a matter of hours is awesome. I know, because you're right. To you, it may just be a phone call you have to return, but to them, it could be something that they're not going to sleep about until they get an answer to. I'm curious, is that, kind of once the final check passes and the final walkthrough is done, is that kind of the end of the relationship there, or what's the surveys that you have on your website, or do those come in after, or what's kind of the handoff of, okay, we built this home, now what?
So Terry, my wife, she takes care of all the social media and make sure that gets all in place. She does a great job with that. In regards to the touch point after the project is done, the funny thing about my personality, and I'll probably get a bunch of some general contractors or builders, I try, and sometimes it's bad for me to do this, but that's just my personality. I try to build a semi-friendship with my clients.
Right.
Majority of my clients, they become my friends, or not so much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I had a good client of mine last year, or that I built a house for. He actually called me up, yesterday, and he had some he had death in his family, and he just wanted to share that with me. And so I think, just because you build somebody their dream home, and after it's all said and done, I think, and I tell people this funny thing is when I sit down with everybody and I talk to them about the process, I said, you're going to laugh when I say this, but this is a marriage. We're going to get married. We're going to have our little differences. We're going to have our little bouts. And then in about 9 to 10 months, I'm going to send you some divorce papers. And then we're going to have the feelings of, oh my goodness, we talk to each other at least once a day.
Right.
And then all of a sudden that relationship's gone. And it is a very weird feeling.
Yeah.
I redid my basement right before the pandemic, and I'll say, like, I spent every day with my contractor, and then even during the pandemic, we would FaceTime. She got to know my dogs. Like, it was hard.
Awesome.
I'm always just like, oh, now I need to figure out what part of my house I'm going to redo next because I miss her so much.
And do you still stay in contact with her, Courtney?
Oh yeah. Now, like, we're Facebook friends. I can ask her questions about projects, and it is a really intimate, oddly intimate relationship to invite someone into your home and into your relationship too. If you have a partner and you're building a home or doing a remodel project, your contractor gets a front row seat to conflicts and your love languages. They get to know your kids and your pets, and it's really amazing.
Very strange feeling, and I would say that there's a lot of us out there like that. I mean, like the last one I did last year, she was pregnant through the whole entire process. So we went through multiple changes, personality wise. But, at the end, I went to see the baby,
so sweet.
She loves the house, and, it's just funny how you build those relationships up.
Well, and it's also not something that, you hope every contractor does that, but it's another thing, those relationships, that sets, the best apart from the rest.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that we are getting close to time here, but I think kind of a good note to end on would be just what advice you have for other builders that are listening to this on how to create the best client experience. Multiple times through this interview, you had mentioned, the online, homeowner portal, the upfront kind of relationship there, all the reviews on your website, everything that you talk about. I can tell you have a passion not just for building homes, but for building homes for people and forming those relationships. And in an industry where kind of word of mouth and referrals is so important, to, incoming leads and things like that, I think that would be a topic that our listeners would be really, really interested in. So, yeah, kind of final ask from you would be just what advice do you have, and what can people do to ensure that they're creating the best experience possible?
Well, I'm gonna go to not so much the client. Let's talk to the builders and contractors out there for a little bit. So I have a big, strong. I want young builders when they come into this market. First thing some of the things I learned that I wish if I had to do it over again, I encourage all builders that want to get into this business, take some business courses first. Learn how to manage your money. That's important. Second off is don't disregard not joining your local building association.
Yep.
I mean, it's huge. The contacts that you'll get in that association and the people that you can relate to and get advice from is going to be huge. Again, when I first got into this, I was not involved in the association, but once I got involved in it, it's just amazing the like of people that will come and you can get advice from. And then I guess thirdly is when it comes to your clients, always think about when conflict happens, kind of put yourself in their position. Not to say they're always right, but also think to yourself, okay, you know what? I know what I'm talking about. Maybe I'm not saying it the right way to them. Maybe I'm not relaying the information the way that I should relay it to. And so those are some of the things that, I encourage people to always, once they want to get into this business, that's what you need to do.
I love it. I feel like that's good advice, not just for the construction business, but just life
for all of us
in general. Yeah. So, thank you very much, Tom. This was an awesome interview, and
such a pleasure.
Really appreciate you making the time to come on today.
Well, I've enjoyed it, and again, anytime y'all need me to speak highly of your all's program, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I think you all are the best.
Thanks,
Thank you very much, Tom.
Yeah.
You're the best.
You're the best. Yeah.
All right. Have a good day. Well, Courtney, we just wrapped up another fantastic interview with another fantastic guest, Tom Waller, Tom Waller Signature Homes. Great guy. I understand why you guys met him at BTU and wanted to have him on the podcast.
Yeah.
Second meeting here. What were your thoughts?
Well, Tom has a lot of really good advice. And I think no matter what type of builder you are, like Tom is a custom builder, but whether you're a remodeler, you're a specialty trade, maybe you're a sub working with a general contractor, he has a lot of good advice. Like, I love the advice to take business classes, like know your money. There's so many, especially with our advanced financial features, you learn that, the money part really matters when you're running a business. It
matters very much.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I've taken some business classes for my marketing stuff, and that's like one of the most valuable things I've done in my career. And then just his passion and his love for what he does, that is what keeps you going. Like, that's what keeps you from laying down flat on the floor and just being like, I'm not going back tomorrow.
Absolutely. And I think as someone I recently bought a home, did not build, but something that really connected with me was, if you're looking for someone to build your home, you need to find someone like Tom.
Yeah.
Like, the home building process can be extremely stressful. And like he said, it's the most money you'll ever spend on one thing in your life. And having someone like Tom just makes it all infinitely easier. They're going to work with you. They're going to be straightforward with you. They're going to be upfront, transparent with you. And it will make the entire experience infinitely better. It's
deeply personal. And I thought it was so sweet that Tom had a customer who reached back out and was like, come meet my baby.
Yeah, absolutely.
After you've known me this whole time, and you have to meet the baby now. And that's not what you get from every builder. So when you're getting ready to remodel or build a house, search for a Tom.
Search for a Tom. Hashtag search for a Tom. Put it on the t-shirts.
This one's going viral.
This was going viral. Well, that wraps it up for another episode of The Building Code. If you could do us a huge favor, go out and like, review, and subscribe this episode so that hopefully this will be our most listened to episode and we can replace Zach with Courtney full-time. So please go do that.
At least that whole team that we, list off all those names at the beginning of the episode, they'll do a real life happy dance when they see those likes and those reviews come in. So.
Yeah, and leave a comment. Maybe we can get some votes going. Hashtag bring back Zach or hashtag get rid of Zach. But either way, tune in next week to figure out what the
if we let Zach come back
consensus.
To the podcast,
if you're on again, who knows? Otherwise, until next time, I'm Charley Burwhistle.
I'm Courtney Mattern,
and this is The Building Code. See ya. Thanks for watching the video. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for exclusive content brought to you by Buildertrend.